Hello again. According to the worst case scenario being looked at in anticipation of a full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, it is thought that as many as 5 million refugees might leave the country. Neighbours like Poland and Hungary are alarmed at such a prospect, with Poland alone planning for 1 million refugees. In Poland, this preparation entails looking for places where they might house hundreds of thousands of people who will become permanently resident in their country. Hungary, which also borders Ukraine, is adopting a slightly different approach. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban had another strategy in mind. He is mobilising the country's armed forces and dispatching them to strengthen the border and prevent any unauthorised entry. A statement from the government in Budapest said that Hungary's security is most important. We are reinforcing the Ukraine-Hungary border. Thank heaven that there is one European leader who has the correct idea when it comes to refugees. Armed border patrols and loads of razor wire, possibly backed up with anti-personnel mines, are called for under these circumstances. Not crowds of beatniks waving placards saying refugees welcome here. I am a little worried about the keen interest which our own dear Prime Minister is currently taking in Ukraine, as I mentioned earlier today. He is exhibiting such sympathy for the problems facing the Ukrainian people, for entirely selfish reasons I might add, rather than genuine compassion, that he will hardly be able to refuse entry when the expected tidal wave of refugees leaves Ukraine. Ukraine is none of our business, and we have not started the fighting there. One might possibly be able to make a case for Syrian refugees and Afghans being in some way a product of British policy and British involvement in foreign wars, but this does not apply in the least to Ukraine. Nothing at all to do with us. However, Boris Johnson is spending so much time being photographed in the cockpit of RAF fighters and in consultation with the Chief of the Defence Staff that he is making it look as though it is our business. This may well be a shameless attempt to stop people noticing that he is the first Prime Minister in British history to be questioned under police caution, but a natural consequence is that he will be unable to wash his hands of the problems when the refugees start leaving Ukraine. After offering to hold Ukraine's coat if they want to have a punch-up with Russia in the pub's car park, he can hardly turn his back on the wretched country when the going gets tough. I'm not a gambling man, but I would stake a good sum of money on plans already being drawn up in Downing Street for the admission of thousands of refugees from Ukraine when the fighting begins in earnest. This is where Viktor Orban scores so highly, in my view. He is the leader of Hungary, and as such his chief and indeed only priority is Hungary and its people. He is reviled as a nationalist by liberal types in other European countries, but how I wish that we had a British nationalist in Downing Street. Some viewers might have noticed the way in which nationalist has become a term of abuse, by the way. When once somebody who stood up for Britain and its interests was called a patriot, these days they are sneeringly dismissed as nationalists. Nationalism is of course the antithesis of globalism, and anybody who puts his or her own country first and above other nations is not playing the game. We should all be supporting the end of the era of nation states and welcoming the arrival of globalism. Not me, I'm afraid. I am a British nationalist and a patriot, And if that puts me on the wrong side of history, then so be it.